Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us for another session of the Florida Food Forum. We are the luckiest people. I mean, we have a chance to always have incredible people such as our presenters today, our partners on the phone, that we have the opportunity to connect with once again. So welcome to you all, and thank you for coming. Today, we have an incredible session, which will be led by our beloved and wonderful Earle, and I won't take much more of the time, but you all know her. But first, let me back up and thank our sponsors for today, which is UHP and Food for All Broward, and they are incredible partners of ours, and they've been incredibly supportive of us in the past, and also the South Broward Community Health Hub collaboration. So all of these sponsors, we'd like to thank them so much. UHP, as you all know, is the coordinating agency for Food for All and the South Broward Community Health Hub. So however they do it, we just thank all of them together collectively for their work. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Earle, and she'll take it from here. And again, thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much, Erica, and thank you everybody for being here with us today. I am super excited to be in the role of moderator to share a lot of the partner work that we have done in the Southeast region. As you know, last forum, we talked a little bit more about policy from the municipal level, but we did start touching on the action-oriented efforts that are happening in our region, and a lot of you shared a lot of interest. And from there, we decided it was really important to really bring more of the partners. And there's only a few here today. We wanted to have, we could have had 20 or 30 of different wonderful people that do amazing work in the Southeast region, impacting food access, security, and justice. But without having any more of my time to talk right now, I really want to really just say that I'm really excited for these panelists. I've been lucky, blessed, and have the privilege to work with them in many ways, learning a lot about what they do, how they impact our communities, the love and the passion and the dedication to the efforts to build more resilience around food systems in our Southeast region. I'm always at awe and in honor of being in the presence of all these people, and those of you that are on the regular attendees. I'm so excited to get to the discussion too, because I know there's partners that are working with us, and after we get through the questions in the panel, we'll get to talk to everybody and hear from more people about the different things that we're all doing, because this is just a little example of what we all are working on together. And without further ado, I would like the panelists to introduce themselves. I'm going to give them a few minutes to share who they are and what their organization does in the community. And also, one thing before I forget, please use the chat. Let us know who you are. Let us know that you're here. You can tell us your name, your organization. You can share your contact information if you want. We'd like to be able to say hi to all of you, but we may not have the time to do it one by one. But if you can let us know who you are on the chat and shout out and say hello, that would be really great. Also, if you have any questions for the panelists during the panel, please put them in the chat. And then if we have time during the panel time to ask them directly to the panelists, we will do that. If the time is up, we will make them discussion questions for the discussion. All right, so please engage, participate. Really excited to have you all here. And yeah, let's start with Amy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Krigsman. I use she, her pronouns. I am the evaluation assistant with Urban Health Partnerships, as well as a graduate student at the University of Central Florida in nonprofit management and public administration. I also volunteer with Healthier Jupiter, which you'll hear more about from Joanna in a couple of minutes. Earle's already told you about Urban Health Partnerships, and it sounds like UHP is fairly well attended here, so I won't take up any more time telling you what we do.
Jamie?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jaime Castoro. I've worked with the Dania Beach PATCH, and now I'm moving on with Urban Health Partnerships to continue working with the Dania Beach PATCH. I've been with them in a variety of roles since about 2014. So I've worked across a bunch of different sectors with the food system. And I just wanted to thank Earle and the Florida Food Policy Council for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Joanna?
Hi, everybody. I'm Joanna. I'm the project director with Healthier Jupiter. We are a community-led healthy eating and active living initiative that really focuses on changing community conditions in the Jupiter community. We are part of Palm Health Foundation's Healthier Together initiative, which is a long-term community-driven approach to solving a community's complex health issues. I'm really excited today to share a little bit about community engagement and integrating social determinants of health and mobility into healthy food access. So looking forward to talking with everybody.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Joanna. Justin?
Hey, everybody. Justin Dunlap here with United Farmers Alliance. We're a group that unites all segments of agriculture for retention and development. We focus on food distribution for local farmers, and then agricultural education and agricultural development.
Thank you so much, Justin. And as you can see, we have a wide variety of different food system partners here. Nattaliah, you're up next.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. I am with SURG Consulting, and we were founded to create customized and streamlined systems for small businesses, nonprofits, and governmental agencies to help them successfully scale and to positively impact communities in a sustainable way. I work with Jamie and in the past with the Patch, and we're currently working with UHP to develop and expand the South Broward Community Health Hub.
Thank you so much, Nattaliah. I'm so excited to hear from everybody in the panel. Next up, we have Regina. Regina, are you there?
Hi, my name is Regina Silas, and I'm the founder of the JBS Foundation INC. The foundation is in honor of my late grandfather, but our main goal and objective is minority entrepreneurship, building out community and economic development in minority communities, addressing food insecurity and food deserts, and teaching our youth entrepreneurship through the food ecosystem using STEM methods.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Regina. And then we have Sam Hopwood with Florida Impact.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for having me. My name is Sam Hopwood. I'm South Florida Regional Director for Florida Impact to End Hunger. We're a statewide nonprofit organization dedicated to advancing health equity by ending hunger for all Floridians. We mobilize communities to maximize access to federal, state, and local food and nutrition programs with a focus on Florida's most vulnerable populations. And since 1979, Florida Impact has helped community leaders secure more responsive public programs and policies to address hunger. My work with the organization is focused here in the Southeast. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam. And last but not least, we have Xavier.
Hello, my name is Xavier Deroos. I am the founder and CEO of Renuable. We are a local community composting operation here in South Florida, Broward and Miami-Dade County, focused on engaging the youth, capitalizing on existing technology and forging new opportunities of collaboration within the community on multi-segment and multi-levels. So I'm super excited to be here. I'm already looking at the chats and everyone introducing themselves. It looks like it's a very well-rounded group of people. So I'm looking forward to this. Thank you for having me.
Thank you all so much. I'm really, like I said, I'm really excited to be with you all and having this conversation. I just wanted to really quickly share, Amy reminded me that I have not really mentioned anything about UHP today. I know that you all have heard about urban health partnerships and we've been here before, but I just wanted to really quickly say that our organization is dedicated to investing in communities to build and co-design sustainable change, focusing on health equity and community-based leadership, and working with partnerships to collective impact. So all of those beautiful things that bring us together here today, Urban Health Partnerships is really dedicated to, and that's why we're really blessed to be able to partner up with people like the Florida Food Policy Council and the panelists today to be able to continue to bring sustainable change, building health equity, and working together for a better world through food. All right, so just to get started, I know that we talk a lot about the food system in general in our forums and in other conversations that we have. But I wanted to ask some of the panelists if they could ground us a little bit on what the food system is to get us started, and then just really thinking about how we need better coordination and strengthening to bring those parts of the food system together in a much better way. So I am going to pass it on to panelists, I think, to give us a brief answer on this. I think Nattaliah and Jamie, you were going to share a little bit about the food system
Sure.
Yes.
first.
If you want to put up the first
Yes, I'm going to do
graphic.
that now. Beautiful.
And I can get started. Everybody, my work with the Dania Beach Patch, we learned that the food system has some basic parts that go across everything. It's production, processing, distribution, consumer, and food waste. They have production involves land and labor, soil and water, equipment, energy. And then you have processing, which is value-added products and packaging and distribution on both the wholesale and the retail or the market level. And then we get to the consumers, and those are homes and food pantries, restaurants, hospitals, grocers and schools, as well as the waste management and renewable products. So the work that I've done at the Dania Beach Patch hits on all of these small, they're all very large and important items. But if you want to put up the second graphic, it's more complex than that simple wheel. We have the policymakers and the government agencies, technical service providers and educators and funders. At the patch, our work hits on every one of these sectors. And through the work that we've done, especially in the last few years, it's become more evident how important working across sectors is, working with the government agencies and the growers and health clinics and to get food to people who really need it. And so I like to say we were involved with all pieces of the graph, and it shows the complexity of the community-based food system and the approach. And our work involves coordination of services, and it involves policymakers, government agencies, and that are imperative to make the system work effectively. And I think that this group is just really starting to dig deep into different ways to make it work more effectively. So with that, I'll turn it over to Nattaliah.
So my focus was going to be, why is it important that we focus on all the aspects more holistically, aiming for improvements and strengthening connections and more efficient coordination? I know Jamie mentioned it before, and if you're all not fully familiar with or work with the patch, we were administering the Farmers Market and Local Food Promotions Grant through the USDA, which was extended because of COVID by a year. And we recognize that, again, because of that, the fact that it is such a much more complex system that we're working with, that it was important for us to be able to pull all those pieces together. Otherwise, and to use the phrase, the roots of the tree are only as strong, must be strong for the whole tree to thrive. And we saw that all the branches were very important for us to be able to make the link so that everyone could work together to make it work more optimally. And to use another expression when it comes to economies of scale, you're able to benefit from economies of scale by optimizing the resources that we had. So, if it is that I didn't know something, I could always reach out to someone who knew something and who knew other people who knew something, so that we could spread that, spread knowledge. So we were able to spread and share knowledge so that we could optimize the knowledge resource that we had together rather than separately. It's easier for us to make success of what we're doing individually by pooling the resources of those that are around us, and it helps us reduce costs. And in general, that's typically the case again with economies of scale. I find that with our partnerships, we were able to get better funding, so we're able to raise capital better. So that's another big reason why a lot of things fail, because there's lack of funding. And because of partnerships, like again, us coming together with UHP and forming and working with the groups that are involved, like Renuable, with the Community Health Hub, we're able to win grants that individually we would never have been able to get. We're also able to I use the term buy in bulk in this case as it refers to economies of scale, but really what it is that we're able to reach more people and to make a success of that outreach. Because a lot of us are involved in trying to make sure that low income and low access communities get access to healthy foods. And me by myself in my one car, in my one area is not able to do that. But because I have partners that are working and doing the work already in their communities, us coming together means that we make a better, broader, and bigger impact. Much more people are reached, and so much more people are helped. And so when everyone, if I happen to stumble on a roadblock, I found that it was much easier for me to be able to find and reach out to someone who already either faced that roadblock and was able to conquer it successfully. And so, it's all of those things again. It's all of us together will make a much bigger impact than individual us. So.
Thank you so much, Jaime and Nattaliah, for that introduction. The food system definitely is a complex thing. And I do agree that coordination and collaboration across sectors, across partners, with the purpose of impact and expanding our reach and leveraging each other's efforts and knowledges and expertises, it's definitely one of the ways in which we've been experiencing some successes out here in the Southeast. So thinking of that to another big piece that comes forth for me is the community-based engagement and community-based assessment that we do, because we focus on the impact that all of us are doing together. And in many ways, we have to make sure that we're engaging and assessing the people that we're working for in many ways. So can Joanna and Amy give us a little bit more on how our community-based engagement and assessment is important to the food system efforts and coordination that we're doing, and how it really helps us with the impact in terms of the individual and community health and well-being, please?
Definitely. Thanks, and Nattaliah and Jaime, thanks for leading that great summary of the food system. I've actually never seen that graphic before. So you see my comment in the chat. That is like a perfectly simple one to really start that dialogue with our community. And one thing that we're really trying to do here in the Jupiter community, since we are a place-based initiative, we get to elevate the voices of our communities for our unique solutions. And with that, we are looking to, bring in as many voices as possible. So I know Amy's going to share a little bit more about that, and then I'll get more into some of the specific things that are going on in Jupiter around community engagement.
Yeah. So what Joanna said about elevating those local voices is really important. We as organizational leaders only know so much from our place on high, right? And unless we engage with the people on the ground in the trenches that are living this experience every day, we can only really grasp at what we imagine they go through and what might possibly alleviate those struggles. So, community engagement and thoughtful assessment are the only ways to get a clear picture of the situation, and having community lead and with us acting as facilitators to co-design solutions that the community will really buy into and then sustain in the long run.
And I think one thing that's really huge, and we're fortunate in Jupiter to really be a public health initiative that gets to focus on healthy eating and active living. And one thing we make sure to do the entire time is integrate both into each other, as well as keep that space open for mental health, right? And so our big thing is engaging the community where they're at. Some people really like to talk to us about physical activity, so we're going to start there and then incorporate like nutrition education and access into it. For example, we do a Couch to 5K program, very, very physical activity focused. But what we're able to do is bring in partners and really listen to community, and the physical activity people want to talk about nutrition, healthy food access, and all of that stuff. So we're able to integrate it successfully. And then one other thing we do around like physical activity is active transportation. So with that, we've done some very traditional walk audits in our community that look at the safety of our sidewalks, bike lanes, our roadways, in order for people to get to the places that they need to. That's the grocery store, that's a clinic, work, all of that. But now we're taking it a little step further and using this community-based assessment. And these walk audits are intended for community leaders to come together as decision makers. but specifically to recruit community members from the neighborhoods, from the streets that we're going to be walking, to be a part of collecting the data. And so we're embarking on a Foodscape walk audit. So we'll be looking at the conditions in our community through the specific lens of food access, looking at what are the healthy food options, how many fast food restaurants are around, like where are the gas stations, where are the empty lots that potentially could be community gardens. And all of that will be driven by communities, since they'll be the ones collecting the data, as well as determining the routes. We're actually going to have one in Jupiter on the 30th. If anybody's interested, we'll throw the link in the chat. But that is one of the big things we're super excited about, and really that community-led voice and that engagement and assessment, and being on the ground and doing this data collection with community has been critical for really elevating what the priorities are for our community around healthy food access, nutrition, and and all of that also incorporating all the social determinants of health as well.
And what's really important about this also, especially things like this Foodscape walk, this Foodscape community audit that we're conducting, as community researchers, which is what we are all at our core, right? We can theorize about the way these things connect and interact, food, transportation, whether or not there's built environment that's convenient and accessible for people. We can theorize about the relationships between these things, and there's evidence to support those theories. But anyone who works at the neighborhood or community level knows that every community is different, and theory only gets you so far, right? So community engagement through processes and tools like this Foodscape audit really take those theories and concepts and solidify them into concrete connections and actionable steps towards real change.
And I'll just put a little wrap on that, and hopefully some others from the panel can share on, is that, not only will it help identify some areas that need to be improved, but then we can use some of the funds that Healthier Jupiter does have through our mini grant program. So we've been giving out mini grants for community members to test out different ideas around healthy eating and active living over the last 5 years. So really allowing the community to identify their needs, right, through some of these community-based assessments, and then giving them the tools, which often we know, and Nattaliah said it, sometimes it's funding, right? That is the need that the community needs. And so we're very fortunate to be in a space to provide some of those small grant funding so that communities, partners or community members can go out and test those ideas, test those solutions to see if they work. And, really, I think one thing that's really critical through all of this and addressing and elevating community voice is that, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but we're learning lessons the entire way. And that is a critical part of, I think, all the work that we're doing in the food system, is being flexible and open to learning and improving, and ultimately allowing community to lead the way through it.
Thank you, Joanna and Amy. That was definitely super important reminder of the centrality of community, right, to all the work that we do. And I wanted to just ask any other panelists if you had any other examples of how you all carry out community-based engagement and assessment, so that community members and perspectives and experiences are really the true leaders of our work.
I'll just hop on there a little bit, because us having a foot in the food waste department makes us a little bit more unique. But getting the community involvement and their buy-in when it comes to what's been working and what hasn't been working in terms of recycling and composting programs that have been tried and haven't worked out, gives us a better perspective on how to go forward and make collaborations that will be long-standing, rather than start with a spark and then just kind of fizzle out. So going and making sure that I know with UHP we're working on like a community garden that will be supplemented by our composting program, and going into the community there, finding out what kind of foods, what kind of medications that the people from that particular neighborhood would be most comfortable using, and getting that one-on-one interaction with the community has been really important for us to make sure that we're heading in the right direction. I think it's really important that all of our partners here and all the panelists are actively engaging with the community, and that's what really can set us apart as a collaboration.
Yeah, I think you hit it in the head too, Xavier, because I think that's also part of what brings us all together, right? Why we work well, why we work kind of like in tune with each other to the same music, because we really all are grounded in that knowledge that we are not the ones that know it, that we have partners to do work that we don't know how to do, and that we have to listen to the community first in order to do the work that is truly impactful. And part of that also includes our youth, right? Sometimes we think of our communities in such like a monolithic term, but the communities are very nuanced, right? There's a lot of differences and diversities within our communities. And a lot of the different stakeholders in them tend to sometimes have precedence over others just because of the nature of our society. But I think it's really important for us to recognize that inclusivity, diversity, and bringing all those pieces into our work and focusing on those target groups that tend to be dismissed, like the youth and the older adults, especially BIPOC communities, right? So anything that I think we have Xavier, Jamie, and Nattaliah working with some youth in the community right now. Is there any insights that you have right now to share with everybody about inclusivity of BIPOC youth and how their leadership and their efforts can influence the work that we're doing?
Sure, and I think that's a really great point, Earle. The youth are so important, and we believe it's particularly important to focus on the youth involvement in the local food system because there's been this increasing gap in the transfer of information intergenerationally. That includes information about traditional agriculture, local food identification, and preparation of that food. The information gap is not only going to hurt the youth of today, but it also means that we're at threat of losing the information and getting to the youth of the future. So we also want to take into account and actively promote the BIPOC, the people of color, Black and Indigenous youth, being heavily involved in the food system, not just making sure that they're present, but making sure that they're heavily involved because they've historically lived in areas that have been disproportionately affected by the inequalities, both in the availability and the options of nutritious food, but as well as their local food system's resilience. So we're working with established nonprofits such as Love Our Nation and The Patch, who we have obviously here doing great work, and to help educate some of the youth who are at risk of being food insecure about the importance of composting and community resource management in general, to ensure the resilience of their family and their local community. We're also integrating composting education and hands-on involvement with the Broward County School District STEM Food Forest program to help recycle food waste from the schools and that hyper-local community where the schools are congregated, to compost that on site where the extra fertility can be integrated back into their food forest that will in turn turn into food for the students and the teachers who are involved with the program. This is obviously going to help close the loop, keep the food system as local as possible, which negates a lot of the possible pitfalls that come along with the longer supply chains that are more complicated, right? Of course, working with youth does come with some particular challenges, and usually involving distractions and short attention spans, that kind of thing. We found that working with great partners like The Patch and Love Our Nation, Together We Stand, and the school teachers, who are already really great with the youth and the programming techniques that help the youth to flourish, that helps to ensure that there's enough supervision to keep them from getting too distracted. But we're also, what we found that really helps is to make sure that there's a lot of time for questions and answers, even while we're going through a program or an activity, giving timeouts for ourselves in order to give them the opportunity to stay engaged, ask questions, however ridiculous they may be. Last week, I got a question from like a 9-year-old. What happens if you put a really, really old banana and a really, really old pancake together? And I'm just like, I don't know. I think we're gonna have to experiment with that. It's a silly question, but otherwise they might lose track of that. So that's how we are working on that. I think I'd like to give more time to The Patch, who's been doing this for years, working with the youth, and especially with youth that's in that BIPOC demographic that really needs the extra outreach. So
yeah, I don't know if Jamie wanted to jump in, but I know I can jump in. For as many years as I've been involved with The Patch, which started in 2012, and with Love Our Nation that joined us, which with their group of after-school kids, it was just almost miraculous to watch as some of these kids go from not knowing where their food came from to understanding, the cycle of plant life, And then to now also understanding, how recycling works and why it's important, but also to watch as a few of them would tell us that they are now teaching their grandparents. So their grandparents who had been separated from the land for so long, living in urban communities where nothing really grew, to being able to start gardens themselves in their own home and teaching their grandparents how to grow food. So that was for us like a big indicator of just how, we talk about a lot about, having the older folks teaching the younger folks how to do things. And we do have that. One of our lead farmer right now is in his 80s.
86.
And he grew up in 86, Mr. Leon. And he grew up in Dania, left and came back to the community. And he's our lead farmer now. So, and his father was a farmer as well, and was at the time when Dania was the tomato capital of the world. So, we've gone from that to having kids in the neighborhood not know where their food came from, but then now the kids teaching their own grandparents how to grow food and understanding the food cycle and understanding why, you have to know where your food comes from, take care of that so you can take care of each other. So now the kids are taking care of their own grandparents as it relates to making sure that they eat healthy. So that for us was huge.
But
Yeah,
also,
go ahead, Jamie.
quickly, Earle, if I can just say that the cross collaboration, because last week we did for World Food Day, the children of Love Our Nation delivered 30 bags of food that we sourced as much as we can locally. They delivered on bicycles that were donated through a program to the 30 seniors throughout Dania Beach, and they had to work on math skills and all kinds of skills to see how much they needed to use the GPS to do their route. So they worked on that in their after school program for a number of days before they just came and picked up the produce that we got together for them and to distribute to the seniors. And the feedback has been really positive and from the seniors, from the children, from the parents. And so it's those kinds of collaborations that work, and they strengthen the food system from the very basic level. And so we're really proud of those steps. So. And
with our apprenticeship training program, we're happy to be able to say we had an 18-year-old from the community and had someone as young as 18 interacting with other members of the community that were in their late 50s and 60s. So, we had a diverse representation in terms of culture on, in our training program, as people were able to learn how to start a farm, very small, start as a garden, and also potentially make it a small profit, and, to encourage entrepreneurship. And we were able to see that, one graduate was already going to be starting a farm with his father and running that full time. And, we were able to literally employ at the patch that 18-year-old, who has since moved on, but, he was able to see the benefit of it and use it and gain employment from that. And, again, it's about localizing everything and making sure that, everything that's taught and the food and everything else doesn't just leave the community that it's coming from.
Thank you so much. I think it's really important, all the work that all the partners are doing, because I know Justin also has been working with some youth in the farm with United Farmers Alliance. I know Healthier Jupiter also does work with some youth. Sam and Florida Impact, there's so much intergenerational opportunity to work with the youth and with the older adults to bring that. I find that they are the two groups that are like most wise and creative in our world, because after that we have all of us working heavily, like most of the time thinking about work and other aspects of the world, and the youth and the older adults just have experience on one hand and creativity and innovation on the other. So by bringing those two groups together and working with underserved communities and Black and Indigenous people of color that have experience beyond our knowledge from our ancestors, from the cultures and different communities, all of us from the different communities that we all come from. It's really important to really bridge that gap intergenerationally, because I think that's where we have a lot of fruitful conversation and opportunity. A lot of that has to do with technology, right? A lot of that now these days has to do with the ways and the systems in which we work together. So I know specifically Justin, and I know Regina too a little bit. You both work in the more technology-oriented efforts sometimes around the food system. And also there was a question in the chat or a comment from Kelly bringing up the local food and the local food economy. So how are you, Justin and Regina, bringing those things together, technology, the youth, and economic development for the youth and the communities that you all serve?
Yeah, I could jump in here. Yeah, I definitely want to say it first is without these groups and everybody being involved in their different aspects, none of this could ever be done. But some of the stuff that United Farmers Alliance really focuses on is economic development, along with the development of agriculture in underserved communities. That's very, very important. We used to have a lot more farms closer to these high density underserved communities. And actually a lot of those farms used to be there. But since development has happened, it's pushed out a lot of those agricultural farms and entities. So we're really trying to utilize what space is left by doing aquaponics and hydroponics and developing these high volume production where the food's needed most, and then creating it in equity enough that they can also sell those products. It's not just for donation, it's really for creating new jobs and sustainability. So once they're up and running, they can sustain themselves. And then now it creates another spot for other farms and people to distribute their products from, because a lot of what we do is we also attach a market to it as well. And with that agricultural development and the innovation, there's a ton of science, there's a ton of math, there's tons of different things that happen in that realm, that it becomes a huge educational piece for younger.
You went on mute, Justin. There we go.
There you go. Sorry about that. Yeah, I had a phone call coming in that muted me on its own. But yeah, so that's really important to have that development and innovation to really be successful and have the longevity to it. A lot of the food donation is really important in making sure.
Again.
Sorry, I had a second phone call come right in. But it's really important that the food donation is great, but at the same time, we also need to make sure that we're producing more food. As it stands right now, Southeast Florida has lost well over 100 farmers in the last 15 years. And even in just this last year, we lost 4 out of our community. We lost a community farm down Bosley's farm. I'm sure you all know Bosley pretty well. So partnering with groups like Fresh RX, and Joanna's familiar with that, and several of you are as well. It really gears towards youth groups between the Boys and Girls Club, some of the private schools and community schools, and really making sure that they not only understand what they're doing, but they get their hands on and get that practical experience to be able to bring home. Like someone had said earlier, being able to, an 8-year-old to be able to teach their grandparents about farming and re-spark that and invigoration of wanting to be a farmer and produce your own healthy food. And that's so important. And it really also helps the general community population. It's one of those things that once you start getting people to know what their food is and how to grow it, they also become more inclined to want to support local farmers. So it's just an endless circle between the whole food system. So the education part is so crucial to everything that we do. And the innovation part is just really fun, because then it gets into the sciencey side of it, and everybody likes science. So
Thank you, Justin. And I was just gonna say, Justin is always on the go because he's a farmer and he's connecting farmers all the time. So that's why he's being called several times today, because probably people need him and he's always there to serve. So thank you for your work, Justin. Regina, I know you also work with youth in schools, and you're working with STEM and STEAM, trying to bring science, health, engineering, technology, arts, and math as an entrepreneurial effort as well. So can you share a little bit on that, please? And if there you go. I was going to say, and if you don't mind, say hello with your, because I know Justin and Regina both on the move. There you go.
I'm always on the go. I'm sorry. I'm going to an interview. They're interviewing me for something called The Next Jackie Today's Show. So I'm headed there. I apologize. My schedule is really crazy today. And then I'm filming at Carroll City Middle right after that. So yes, A lot of my programs, and I'm a developer, I'm on the development component of it, but my main goal and objective is to teach our youth entrepreneurship through the food ecosystem, as well as stop all the gentrification. And then I want community and economic development, not just to build up the buildings, but build up the people that's already existing in the community. So that's what I strive for, and that's what I think that's needed in our communities, to teach about the food ecosystem from every aspect, to growing the food, to cooking the food, to the health component. I think that we go further together, and I have a lot of partners to be able to complete my mission as well. That's very important because we can't do it alone.
You're right, Regina. It takes a village, and I think all of you are a testament. And those are our partners on the audience. I know there's a few people that we all work with. There's some questions coming in, but before we go into those questions from our wonderful partners, I wanted to just bring it back to this, to remind all of us that there is the policy and that wheel that Nattaliah and Jamie shared with us at the beginning, and Justin just alluded to it again. There's so many different parts of that wheel of the food system. And I think that one of the really big ones is the coordinated effort around communication, and then how can we make these changes sustainable, right? So that we understand and know and hear from each other what's happening, what the needs are, what we're working on, but then bringing that policy systems and environmental change strategy around all the work that we're doing so that we can sustain it. Because the perfect example that Justin brought about Mr. Bosley's farm in Palm Beach was one of those concerns. We didn't have a plan. The city didn't have a plan to sustain this farm. It was not in the policy that the lease should be renewed. And then these loopholes allow things to stop and end. And this was a needed farm in the community. So I know Sam, Florida Impact and To End Hunger does a lot of work around policy and around moving people to change around policy and advocacy. So can you share a little bit more about how improving our communications and work around policy systems and environmental change advocacy can really help us sustain some of the work that we're talking about today?
Yeah, so obviously communication and advocacy go hand in hand. Both pieces are critical in preserving existing programs within the food system and being able to expand, enhance, or build new parts of that system. So these aspects, communication and advocacy, are where we must strongly leverage all of the pieces that we've already talked about today: community engagement, collective impact, coordination, collaboration, technology, and everything else. Working together through these pieces allows us to communicate more effectively from our local grassroots up to Tallahassee and even beyond that. So on the communication side, I think it's important that as much as possible, we join together to move policy forward. We have to be speaking the same language and better align our policy agendas, even for organizations that didn't really consider policy to be a part of their work. We don't have to agree or focus on the exact same thing, but for positive health and nutrition policy, we should all be able to go to elected officials or community members and promote a clear, consistent agenda. And this sort of collaboration is very important in strengthening our individual voices and raising the voices of community members who may not feel seen or heard. So all of us are here today because we have a passion. We are passionate about supporting and strengthening the Florida food system and ensuring health, well-being, and equity through nutrition. However, we also have our own niches, and as much as we collaborate, we do often find ourselves almost in competition for the scarce financial resources that really keep our work going. And this means that we often prioritize our own work over communicating the broader picture of the huge web of efforts, resources, and opportunities that are out there. So policy change can benefit all of us, and most importantly, can benefit the individual communities that we serve. Implementing policy collaboratively allows us each to use our individual strengths as organizations to realize sustainable change. And under this broad umbrella, we can start aligning our efforts and strengthening the messaging that is being disseminated. In the Southeast, coalition building collective impact initiatives such as the Broward Community Health Hub, the Healthy Miami Gardens, Food for All Broward, and many others support this, but we also must still use caution to avoid simply building a bigger silo for us all to work in. One exciting opportunity that we've started recently is building a Homestead Food Access Coalition that doesn't even include any of the partners on this call here today. Aside from myself, it's entirely South State residents leading the work and identifying the opportunities where we can come in and support. An example of really effective advocacy, collaboration, and communication emerged just over the past few months, where we formed a statewide coalition of state and national partners to fight for summer pandemic EBT. Individually, these partners, including Florida Impact, were locked out of that decision-making process. But by leveraging our individual connections and relationships and creating a strong, consistent message to go out to community leaders, legislators, and the media, we were able to make the state reconsider its position on pandemic EBT and eventually agree to provide the much needed financial support for child nutrition. And this is a perfect example of advocacy in action and the strength of strong, clear, consistent communication. Without this effort, millions of Florida children would have missed out on hundreds of millions of dollars of federal aid for food. This advocacy focused around what is currently a short-term financial band-aid. However, the methodology of collaboration can and should be applied to broader PSE change. Policy is critical in supporting health and nutrition in a number of ways, and most importantly, sustainability, as Earle mentioned at the beginning. For many of us, our work lives and dies on outside funding. When implemented effectively, policy change can ensure long-term success of these projects. For example, in Miami Gardens, we've been working on a CDC-funded Healthy Corner Stores initiative. These types of projects are notorious for falling apart once funding is gone. So we passed a city ordinance around healthy retail certification with clearly defined and enforceable standards. And then we've worked to combine that policy with existing related work, such as alcohol and tobacco sales enforcement, really to build in that long-term sustainability once the funding is gone. So lastly, I'll end by saying that, at the moment, community engagements and PSE projects are being funded. Demonstrating success in these areas makes you an attractive partner organization and a fundable organization. These efforts bring resources into the communities we serve and have a longer term impact than some of the traditional project-based initiatives. And it's in all of our interests really to collaborate more closely on advocacy and policy development and to more effectively communicate the bigger picture of what's going on in the Florida food system, really highlighting our successes, which we often struggle to do, and elevating the challenges which arise from the grassroots and the community members we serve.
Thank you so much, Sam. I think you put it so well together, really connecting the importance of staying connected, sharing what we know and what is happening with each other, and using this to leverage opportunity and policy change, right? And then there's also the technology piece and just the communications in general. There's different platforms that offer us opportunity to connect. There's forums like this that offer us opportunities to network. The Florida Food Policy Council, becoming a member and being able to have access to a wider range of players and doers in the food system in our state. But there's also some really cool things coming up, right? So I know, Xavier, you've been working with some partners in the Southeast too, in terms of figuring out ways to do civic engagement and advocacy more hip, right? Because a lot of the times it's hard for us to get people in the policy systems and environmental change world, because advocacy sometimes sounds like a heavy word, right? And a lot of people may not be interested in that. But you and Resourcity have come up with some really great, interesting ways to try to kind of bring that back down to community level a little bit more, so that then people can start engaging a little bit through civic engagement. And then with that, trying to push the needle forward for advocacy and other efforts. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah, and thanks for bringing that up, actually. Really exciting stuff. And without Sam's advocacy and the collaborations between everyone, the ideas for this wouldn't even have come up. But as Renuable and Resourcity and, with grant funds, thankfully from UHP, we've been able to enter into these mini grants for an app development that's going to be, like Earle said, kind of cool, kind of hip, kind of fusing this modern technology of communication and social media with a long-term solution for sustainability, where we can offer rewards between the different sectors and for-profits, nonprofits, farmers, and we can engage the community with a physical and tangible reward at the end. So where people are able to get credits, receive swag, where they can receive shout outs from their sponsoring businesses, and really exciting stuff. Again, we're still forming the app. We should have a beta in December, but we're really looking forward to having all the partners that are on the panel, but as well as the people in the group in the audience, because we're going to need collaboration on all fronts in order to really push this agenda forward. And I totally agree that when we come together and we can present in a unified manner, a lot of times the access to funds become more available rather than less available, because we can offer more value than we would as a solo entity. So I think that it's really encouraging to see all of this stuff coming up, and in order to bring it back in community engagement, and in order to build what we're trying to build as a society and within Florida's food policy, to add some real tangible rewards, that should be exciting. And then obviously being able to link on social media makes it more accessible for people. So looking forward to that for sure.
Wonderful. And we're getting to the end of our panel. I do have a couple questions that came from the audience that have to do with policy. So we'll get through those in a second. But before we do, I wanted to just do a lightning round of just quick shares from the different panelists that want to share a little bit more on the topic of the collective impact and multi-sector collaboration. A lot of what we've discussed today speaks on that and highlights some different examples of how we get to certain goals through collaboration, collective impact, and coordination. But just quick lightning round of your final thoughts on why you're here, how this collaborative efforts have helped support your work, how you see the impact that we are making together, and just a little bit of the vision, for the next year, because we're getting to the end of this one already. It's unbelievable, and I know that we'll continue to work together through the next. So, go ahead.
I think what it really boils down to is, and I think you mentioned this in the opening, right? Food access, security, justice, these are huge complex issues, right? And no one organization or system was responsible for creating the current conditions, and we're not going to remedy them by working in silos. So collective impact is the way forward. It's the way for us as a society to address these complex issues in a way that we're not stepping on toes, but we're also not working individually and not actually solving the problems.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Amy. Thank you for that. In my head, there's this saying that just keeps coming up over and over. It's like, if you want to travel fast, travel alone. If you want to travel far, travel together. And that really resonates with the mission for Renuable, because the journey to sustainability and resilience is long and difficult, and often plagued by bureaucracy, old ways of thinking, budget restraints, existing policy framework that we're working around all the time. But we have found that through the collective multi-sector collaboration, we're able to more fully impact the local, regional food systems, the environment, small and large scale community dynamics, and even the perception towards going towards a more fully sustainable future. It seems like when you're doing it alone, it can seem overwhelming. And when we have this group and the support of organizations and community members, it seems like it's a more achievable goal to aim for. For example, we're working with federal and state level governments, city officials, private business owners, corporations, and schools in order to kind of connect all of these projects and maximize the impact. And without the cooperation, the impact would pretty much be negated or completely non-productive. For example of that, we're working with the city in Hollandale to make sure that the term waste is better defined, because that if it doesn't include the material that would otherwise be compostable, composting operations have an opportunity to grow without being subjected to the monopoly that's currently existing in many cities with their waste management contracts. It's a good example because without the involvement from the multi-sectors, the beneficial work that we're doing to kind of build this food waste, this network of food waste producers, the composting sites, and the growers that will utilize the compost, it gets hindered or thrown away because the waste management monopolies have this term that they can broadly call waste products. And that's a great disservice to the community, the economy, and the future. So by working proactively and by collaborating with people that might not otherwise be aligned with your interests, we're able to help a city or a municipality meet their SAP, their sustainability goals, while also leaving a niche for new economies to be grown and new businesses to be grown within the community. So definitely super important. I think that would be our closing slide, is that we're just trying to make sure that the world that we want to live in and operate in is being created because we're proactively going and changing that. So really, really important for us.
I know for us at the Patch, we would not have even been started if not for community collaboration, and not just community collaboration within Dania, but then expanding that to beyond the limits of our city and to incorporate and to utilize the expertise and knowledge and spaces and policies that other cities have put in place, and then using that to help us expand and to reach more people. I mean, as a good example, the CRA, which started the patch, the Community Redevelopment Agency, they were the ones that went out and made sure that the community was engaged. They had the charrettes and had the meetings and asked the people what they wanted. And it therefore made it much easier for them once they saw the development of it happening, for them to accept it and want to be a part of it and want to see it grow. Because again, if you don't have these pieces or parts that come together, and there's some parts that say no, that development could just stop or be stalled or end completely. So, to latch on to what Xavier said, there are ways that you can either be blocked or you can actually just grow, and it's easier to grow together than to have, the struggle of working on your own.
I agree with what Nattaliah said and Xavier, and it's very, very difficult to work alone in a vacuum, because you're touching so many lives and you're touching so many sectors of that food piece of that graph that you really need to work together and to move anything forward in a positive way and to really help the food system become strong and local. So
thank you. Any last thoughts?
Quick little bit, sorry, really. I think one of our most important roles is being able to raise the voices of community members. And Florida Impact, as an example, is a very small organization. We say, we are a statewide organization, but we're very small. And if we don't collaborate with people, we're no stronger than a resident or an individual in a community who already feels that their voice isn't being heard. So by bringing what we hear in the community up into groups like this, collective impact groups, we can kind of percolate those ideas, see who has the resources and the expertise to make a change in that area, which may not be Florida Impact, it may not be anybody on that call, right? But we have those connections, we can leverage those connections and really make sure that sustainable change comes out. And we can go back to that individual or resident who brought up the idea and say, this is what we're doing, this is who we're working with, and you will see results based on what we've been able to accomplish.
Thank you, Sam. I think you also made a really strong point of coming back and continuing that feedback loop, right? We're not just having community members help us guide an effort. They have to be embedded, integrated, and continuously communicated through it all. Community are our biggest partner, and that's why we have to work like this. All right, so I am going to wrap up the panel for now. There was one really good question that came up, or a couple that came up, that I will address in the discussion now. But before we jump onto the discussion, I know there are several Southeast Florida partners out here on this call. And I just wanted to say, thank you for your work in Southeast Florida and everybody else that works in the food system throughout the state. But for those Southeast Florida partners that are on the call, if you want to just say hello, and I'm going to invite everybody else to jump off if you want to join with the camera, please turn your camera on. We're getting ready now to move into the discussion. But before we do that, I want to say thank you to all the panelists. I think this conversation was extremely powerful and rich. I am so, like I said, I'm so honored and blessed to be able to work alongside all of you and those in the audience. It is the work that we do together that continues to nurture our growth. So I am really excited for your work, and I can't wait to continue to help support and coordinate everything that's happening in our area and throughout our region and throughout our state. So thank you to the panelists. Give yourselves a round of applause. We will now be moving up to our discussion. And if, again, like I said, if there are Southeast Florida panel or audience members that would like to say hello and give us a shout out, I can pick on you, but you can also come on your video and say hello. I know Carlita is here. I know Kelly from Indian River. Anybody that would like to say hello, just really quick.
I would like to say hello and thank you for bringing everyone together. I feel very excited after hearing everyone, and I just feel inspired to keep working on our community in Broward County, because I'm based in Broward County, but still Miami, Broward, Palm Beach, up to St. Lucie. So thank you for organizing this forum, and thank you for all of your thoughts and work put into this webinar. I'm very excited. So I look forward to the Q&A session.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Carlita. And I see Kelly over here. Kelly, you want to say hello?
Hi, everybody. I'm in Vero Beach, Florida, and I tried to start a council years ago, like in 2013, and I can't tell you how excited I am to see the collaboration that is existing at this time. So I did want to ask if anybody in the state, because one of the things I've really been pushing for a long time is for a local food distribution center. Does anybody have one in their area that is supporting that for their local food? I would love to know.
And I think this is an open question for the entire audience. Does anybody have, I know in the Southeast region, we're working to start building some distribution support for the farmers, and maybe Justin or the lady or Nattaliah or Jamie can speak to that a little bit more. But is there anybody else on the call that has, I know Carissa, I know you're also working something similar out. I think there's actually a distribution center for the schools programs that you all have in Gainesville. I don't know if you want to share a little bit on that, Carissa.
Hey everyone, yeah, my name's Carissa Raskin. Up in Gainesville, we have, well, in Alachua County, we have a food hub that's a pilot program that's part of Alachua County Public Schools. And so what they've been able to do is aggregate across different farms that will supply to the schools. What we haven't been able to do, though, is open that hub to be a source for other buyers to buy from. But that's something that we are actively looking at and working on, and hopefully we'll be able to expand the existing pilot food hub so that in addition to the farmers selling directly to the schools, they also will be selling to institutions and other buyers. We have the University of Florida in Gainesville, which would be a huge benefit because, as you all know, they can't buy from small farms because the scope of the amount of food that they need to put into a dining hall at a university is a little bit beyond the capacity of a small farmer to grow. So we're still pretty early, but we have our school system, our farm to school program is amazing. So that's what we've got going on.
So I think examples like the one you shared, Carissa, and the need that you're speaking on, Kelly, it's something that is driving us, right? Hearing from farmers, and Justin, I think maybe you also can speak a little bit on that in terms of our panelists, really identifying the needs from the farmers and the people that are growing the food. It's key, right? And figuring out how that can then support the other pieces of the system so that we can have more integrated networks of processing, distribution, transportation, aggregation, and getting food from the farm to the table of different people. It is really one of the key drivers, I think, of our work. So Justin, I don't know if you have anything about what you do in terms of that, and then maybe anybody that would like to share a little bit more about how we're working together in Dania Beach in particular, trying to put together some hyper local distribution centers. So please go ahead, feel free.
Yeah, so I definitely could talk on this point. So for United Farmers Alliance, we've set up a couple of cold storage locations. We have one of our own, and then we've also been working with some of the food banks and food distribution for donation as well, because that's also a big problem outside of the actual purchasing of products. We've also seen a lot in the food donation community. They don't have the adequate food storage to take on local food products, especially on the perishable side. So we've really been working with as many groups as we can and trying to get them the funding as well, kind of assisting in that portion to install these shipping containers and make a valuable solution for them to operate in the local community and distribute there. So one of the biggest things for the farmers that we've always have a need for, and we have about 40 plus farmers at the moment that we work with and is within our network. And that the distribution is one of the key components that everybody says they need help with. We got to keep our farmers on the farm. So the more that they're out driving and trying to distribute their products, the harder it is for them to actually farm. Farmers belong on the farm. So however we can help distribute, that's one of our big goals here at UFA. Yeah, so the food distribution is being done. But it's on a local scale, and that's kind of how we would like to see it stay, other than keeping, our region as things are needed or short in certain areas. That's kind of how we can justify that moving product from one region to the other within the Southeast Florida or within Florida in general. But we're hoping to expand that to like Tampa, Orlando, Sarasota region next to really start that distribution and supporting those local farmers out there as well. So you should be seeing that coming on the early part of next year, second chapter of UFA and that distribution network.
Yeah, Kelly, definitely. Remember I talked to you about Justin. So definitely connecting with Justin. It's going to be a really good thing for y'all to do because Kelly is a farmer up in Indian River. So definitely please connect. And I was just also, I know that there were, I don't know if they are here, but we have some partners from Harvest Drive, I think, and Davy out on the call. And I know we also have Stacy from the Urban Farming Institute out in the Southeast too. I know different examples of food processes, but Harvest Drive is, can you speak on your particular needs around distribution and storage? Yes.
Yeah, hi, my name is Amy Freund. I'm the program coordinator for Harvest Drive, and we're in a slightly different space, but I think they both have value. We are in the non-perishable space, and one of our biggest challenges, which we've told Leanna so many times, is we are professional squatters. We were receiving our food at a receiving warehouse. We're packing at community parks. We work at schools. So our ability to bulk purchase and even who we can buy from is limited by the way we receive. And it keeps it challenging in a way that isn't always good. And I think we're a really good complement to what you guys are trying to do, because obviously you are trying to generate a lot of really healthy food and get it into people's bellies. We're trying to make sure that there are things that don't go bad that are in their pantries too, and that kids can quickly access if their parent is working, that if they're feeding a younger sibling, and the demand is just crazy high. We started packing food bags every 2 weeks during COVID. We're down to once a month now. Literally, we put it out with the school social workers, and within a day, every single bag is claimed. And they ask, do you have more? Do you have toiletries? Do you have gift cards? And they're picking them up and delivering them to their families. So the need is definitely not going away.
Thank you so much, Amy. And I know you work very closely with another partner who couldn't make it to the panel today, Liana Leiva from the South Florida Hunger Coalition. And they do a lot of really great work in finding those connections across the different aspects of the food system, from the farm, from the food that's coming from the farm to the non-perishables, to clothes and different things that they might gather through their network. But that's another way of connecting with partners that have kind of like their antennas and tentacles everywhere to try to figure out where food goes, where things that are excess in one place can go to support other places. That level of coordination that they bring to the table is also one of the other reasons why we wanted to have them here. So thank you so much for representing that diversity within the food system and the food needs for our community, right?
I want to give a big shout out to the local food community here in South Florida, because we talk a lot. If we have any extra bags that aren't going into the schools, I'm immediately shooting out an email to Leanna. Where do you want them to go? I contact that agency. If I send it at 10 o'clock at night, they answer me before midnight. It's crazy. So we do talk, and we also work with Children's Services Council to see where they think things need to go. And so there's a lot of collaboration, and it's really positive.
Thank you. Somebody was coming up this mic to share something too.
I was going to just chime in there, because it's not necessarily related to us, but we do have partnerships with a company called Gooder. And for people that don't know what they do, they take food that is perishable, but would be otherwise wasted at the end of the day from a restaurant. And they partner with nonprofits to basically be the courier, the courier for that food before it gets wasted. So if anybody has a interest in that, you can also contact me and I'll get you plugged in with Gooder. They basically have third-party rideshare partnerships that can make it so that food from anywhere to anywhere can happen pretty quickly. So I just wanted to offer that, because I know we're all doing work in this space. So.
And I think Nattaliah, you've been also doing some other type of work of making sure that food gets to people through fresh markets and activities like that. Can you share a little bit on that?
Yes, I can. So as part of the grant that we had through the USDA, it was a farmers market and local food promotions grant. And our work with that was not only to just get food to low-income, low-access communities, but also to work with our local farmers to improve and increase their production and to find ways for them to get it to market. And so one of the aspects of that we worked on was through our farmers market, making that more mobile. So we created our mobile market. And, just again, to kind of reiterate with the patch, we are an urban farm, a farmers market, and community garden. But because we're formed through the CRA, we're not formed to make money. We just were supposed to become sustainable and then to be able to replicate that within different communities all throughout South Florida and hopefully beyond. And so the idea with the mobile markets was to be able to not just, grow food, but to take the food to the people, but to support those farmers while we're doing that and make that whole system sustainable. And because of that, we're able to reach several different cities working with our program. Of course, that was shut down during COVID, but before all of that was shut down, we worked with the city of Hollywood, the city of North Lauderdale, the city of Fort Lauderdale, housing authorities, and of course, one of our big supporters was, Feeding South Florida, who was able to provide the free portion of food that when we were at markets, we're able to give that away as well. So we weren't just selling to be able to sustain ourselves, but we sold at, below market rates, and we're able to have food for giveaways. So we were able to support that. And in addition to that, now with the end of the grant, we were able to work for the last year or so through FSAC, which is the Southeast Florida Food Systems Action Collaborative, which, we were able to activate a diverse food system with innovative efforts, emerging hyper-local and regional food system infrastructure to coordinate all of that was taking place that we were doing, but also with our partners. And because we support our local growers, we were able to pull that, to make it a little bit more regional. As we added more partners, we were able to create that system to then, through the help of UHP, through Food for All Broward, establish the South Broad Community Health Hub. And because of a lot of the expert partners involved with that, like American Heart Association, as well as Feeding South Florida and the South Florida Hunger Coalition, with FSAC, we're leading in planning and organizing, coordinating, the short-term and long-term efforts that we have. And, to be able to get grants to then make, again, a bigger impact. So, we're speaking not only to we start something, but we don't want it just to end. We want to be able to offer all of that to a community and have that be replicated throughout the Southeast region.
Thank you so much for bringing that up, Nattaliah. And I just want to kind of give a little bit of a back information of FSAC. So the Food Systems Action Collaborative that Nattaliah just spoke of, a lot of us that are here in this panel today and attendees, we are part of this collaborative. We formed it together. We were able to leverage some grant funding to get the process started and initiate formalization of our group. That includes a lot of other partners like Do Well, Do Good Corporation, that we're working on the Feast Food Network with Rachel Shapiro, previously at the council. Together We Stand with John Mayer and the different education components that they have at the location in Hollywood. Another composting partner with Filthy Organics in the northern area. So there's this collaborative effort that initiated by leveraging a grant, and then we formalized as a group to be able to continue work with or without the grant, to then continue to apply for collaborative funding together. So Justin, the Patch, Xavier, the other partners that I mentioned, we work together through the Food Systems Action Collaborative to be able to leverage what all of us are doing to continue to seek out additional opportunities and create a larger impact. So I really just wanted to highlight that effort, because that was something that was organically developed through stakeholder relationships and then became something that we realized was going to be fruitful in the end. So we've been working along those lines, and a shout out to all the Food Systems Action Collaborative FSAC partners. And if you're interested in joining and being part of we meet monthly, we do conversation, but with action. And so a lot of the meeting that we do is always taking notes of what's coming next. So lately we've been working on establishing a micro local food system effort in Dania Beach, where there's a lot of us already involved and doing great work. So we've been kind of working together to be able already leveraging some of the efforts that are happening and that a lot of us are working on in Dania Beach to propose a micro local food system that we're looking at all the different data from all of us. So again, it's really magical to see all these different partners that do amazing things on their own coming together and putting on a document what we're doing that can actually have, and then trying to explain and showcase the impact that something like this can have for a municipality, right? So then we can tell to Dania Beach, hey, we're looking at this location for storage, we're looking at this location for processing, these partners are already doing this work, these partners are already doing that work, the level of impact that we can accomplish together is A, B, and C in terms of the different aspects of the food system. So I really encourage all of us today to think creatively, think collaborative, and I put 2 words on the chat that I think are very important: complementarity and mutuality. So I think 2 of the things that we do in FSAC and with UHB, with the South Broward Community Health Hub, Food for All, and all of the partners that were here on the panel today, we complement each other, right? So we don't have to do it all. If you do this, we can do this. The patch example of having the patch in a bag efforts where people can purchase affordable local produce, but then also putting the free non-perishable foods that are being put through donations, maybe Harvest Drive and the patch can do something together in the future. And so that's complementarity, right? Where we kind of bring the different players that do different things together to do something better. And then the mutuality, where we're looking to support one another, where we're looking to give mutual value, mutual support, mutual energy to the work that we're doing. And I'm going to call out an Xavier. He made me watch Fantastic Fungi this over the last couple of weeks. And I just think of that mutuality coming up a lot in the terminology of the fungus and the mushrooms and the different fungi elements of the world and how they connect. So I think that when we think of how can we complement each other and highlight everything that we do together, and how can we feed and nurture and continue to connect our networks to do things more coordinated together, those 2 things I think are going to really bring our efforts to the next level. And as many of our FSAC partners do, and Rachel, who is one of our leaders in the Food System Action Collaborative too, really making a change that is so needed right now, because our world has changed. Our world is different, and food is going to be part of that element that can continue to make us be resilient and look for our communities first and foremost. So I'm going to wrap it up for the last few questions. If there's anything else, any burning desires, audience, thank you so much. Panelists, thank you so much. Florida Food Policy Council, Erica, Kendra, this is only being done because of all of our efforts that we're here bringing all together today. Thank you.
I'm just going to hop in there because you mentioned me, but the reason I brought up Fantastic Fungi, if you guys haven't seen it, is because Earle, thank you so much for being the mycorrhizae fungi that connects all of our projects and really brings the nutrients from a person that needs it to the place that it needs to go to. A lot of us are forever indebted to you for your hard work and dedication within the food systems, and really, really value you. So thank you very much for everything that you do as well.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to say too, Earle, is, we're coming together as a social benefit enterprise. So I had actually reached out to the food bank during this to see if we could have a space. They have a regional food distribution center here, to see if there was a space that they could allow us local growers to work out of. And they said they had outgrown their space, that they were in a lease they were trying to get out of. And since then, I reached back out to her, and she applied for a small grant, and she's asking about, how they can, do maybe some transportation and reach out to food deserts. But I'm bringing this up because, I'd like to see it's not always about being a nonprofit, and these nonprofits have to be able to work with people who are in business differently. We're like the outreach. We're the outreach that most of these businesses are looking for. I actually went to a capital access meeting, and that was the biggest subject, was how can we get to the people? So you got to be working with these people that can get to these people, these organizations, and how can these funds come to them in a way to work with these nonprofits, So here she is sitting there, and I'm going, gosh, why can't she just donate the money to local growers to support local food? They need the support. The local growers need the support. And so I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Kelly. And Kelly and I have been having great conversations about how we can center farmers. So that's why Justin, Kelly, myself, let's continue this conversation about central farmer engagement, and making sure that you all are a big part of our development moving forward too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been great.
Well, thank you all so much. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today. we really appreciate all of our panelists. Earle, we love you. And all of our panelists today, Nattaliah, Justin, Sam, Xavier, Jamie, Joanna, Amy, Regina. I think she had to hop off a little bit early, but thank you all so much for sharing your knowledge with us, your projects with us. If you put your information in the chat, we hope everybody was able to get that information. If you weren't able to get a contact that you would like, reach out to us. We'll make sure that you can get connected with the right people. So Erica, I think we just wanted to give a final word of thanks to our sponsor, and then we'll give you a little more information about our upcoming forum next month. So if Erica, you'd like to take the lead.
Sure. Again, thank you to everyone that attended today. As usual, we try to provide cutting edge information and opportunity to collaborate and connect and just to work together to build this food system in Florida and make it equitable for all. So again, thank you to all of our sponsors, UHP, Food for All, Relly for the amazing work that you do, and all of our panelists today, all of our guests that are on. Thank you for always supporting the Florida Food Policy Council. We couldn't do this without you. Everyone knows we're a clearinghouse of information. We try to be a resource to bring people together. So we couldn't do it without all of you. So thank you all for your support, and I'll turn it back over to Kendra.
So again, thank you so much. I do just want to let you all know that we do have a forum planned for November. Normally our forums are on the last Friday of the month, but Thanksgiving is on, I believe, the last Thursday. So to kind of work around the holiday, we're going to be holding our forum on Friday, November 19th. It'll be from 12 to, I believe, 1:30 as well. We've been extending our forums 30 minutes longer, so we have more time for collaboration and Q&A. And the topic is going to be on building resilient communities through cooperatives. So we have Erica Hardison, who runs the One Community Co-op, I believe, in Tampa area. She'll be on, and then I believe we'll also have Lou Murray, who is, I believe, the chair of the Minnesota Policy Council, on as well. So we hope you can all join us. Again, it's a free forum. Our goal is to connect, to facilitate these connections and grow our network. So we appreciate you all. We'll have a recording up in the next week or so, and connect with us. You can email us or find us on our website and through social media. So thank you.
Thank you, Kendra.
Thank you, everybody. Great panel, everybody.
Yeah,
great
thank you.
attendees, and everybody.
Thank you again,
So grateful.
everyone.
This was great. Thank you. Bye-bye,
So
everybody.
cool.
Take care.